Greetings, I'm Thomas, and welcome back to Basiliskcape. In today's episode, we're going to be correcting a wrong that we made a long time ago in a video far, far away. This version of the Flightsuit relies on off-the-shelf clothes. So I bought this pair of regular cargo pants. I've actually been wearing a different pair of these for a while at this point, and they're really quite comfortable. And I think they'll do a good job looking the part. First though, I need to remove any tags or other commercial things. More importantly, this tag in the back of the pants, that's just uncomfortable. The shirt is a different brand, but again, it's one that I know fits me, and right now when I'm pressed for time, that is what is most important. Also, since I already have a couple of these shirts, it allows me to mark up exactly how short the sleeve needs to be. I'm gonna remove the pockets because I don't need those on a flight suit. The sleeves are a fun one because whereas the torso and the shoulders and the circumference of the sleeves fit me perfectly, the length does not. That is just a personal issue. I think I mentioned that on the original flight suit video. But basically, what I ended up doing is taking the cuffs off of one and putting them on the other. Now, I'm going to use those pockets that I took off of the flight suit. I'm going to chop them up. I'm going to use them to make some details for the sleeves. This right there, that is where the pen separator for the pocket was, and the stitching just kind of chewed up the material. Convenient place to cut though. A lot of water really helps when you're folding and positioning fabric. Like even before you use an iron to press it, copious amounts of water will help the fibers stick to themselves for just long enough to get it under the iron. So I've pinned on my details. I'm going to pull out the sewing machine and we're just going to start stitching everything together basically as fast as I can because I'm running out of time. Just try not to poke myself. Or make mistakes. Yeah, I sewed the sleeve shut because I was rushing. So the struggle of recording for YouTube, I had this whole thing about how I had pinned in the long sleeve into the shirt, and I was going to go through and sew it, and I went through and sewed on what I thought was on camera, and turns out I was recording audio the whole time but not video, so that's great. Oh well. Point is, the long sleeves are installed. This is technically a complete shirt. I just need to make a bib out of the donor shirt. We'll see that in the next segment. So here I'm planning out the bib. If it's not clear why I need a bib, it's mostly to cover up the buttons that are on the front of the shirt holding it together. And then I showed you, I took the piece of fabric out of the back of a donor shirt. I'm going to hem the edges, and that'll shrink up the bib slightly, unfortunately, but it'll make the whole thing a lot cleaner. Now I'm going to work on the collar. You might notice that the main shirt that I was working on still has its collar. So why do I need to add a collar? Well, I'm taking the collar off of the donor shirt, hemming the bottom, and then adding that as a second height layer onto the existing collar. Basically what I'm doing is I'm making a turtleneck. Don't forget to rethread your bobbin. So what do you think? Does it look good? I think so. It certainly feels good. It is way more comfortable than the homemade one. And that's the main advantage of making your costumes based off of existing articles of clothing. If you find something that you know fits well, that you know is comfortable, the hard part is taken care of for you. Yes, it is significantly easier to, take something a little bit apart and put it back together differently than it is to get the raw materials and put that together from scratch. But, and I have to admit, I put this together in a little over a week. So that's about 5 working days, about an hour and a half each day, because that's what my schedule's like lately. Whereas the original one, before I had to remake the top, that took like 2 or 3 weeks. And I had a good 4 to 6 hours every day. So that's like 2 or 3 weeks of 4-hour days, working every day except Sunday. This, 5 or 6 hour-and-a-half sessions. So it does pay dividends in time to make from existing pieces. Now, that's not to say this is perfect. There are some pretty severe flaws with this. Ed, bless his heart, I love him. And he's absolutely right for saying this. He pointed out that there are some, how shall I put this, Star Wars inaccuracies on this flight suit. First and foremost, well, actually, none of it has to do with the jacket, actually. The jacket is great. There's no showing buttons. There are buttons. Look, this bib. Magnets. Goes together with magnets. That's pretty cool. I did that off camera. Sorry. Apologize. But all the buttons are hidden. He has no problems with that. The cuffs, my double cuffs, these go together with Velcro, which is very convenient. I was considering taking off the buttons and just sewing them straight, but Ed's right. I do want to be able to roll up my sleeves when I am out of costume, because it is hot in this room. And the high today is like 85. No, 80. Where I am going, Phoenix Fan Fusion, at the start of June, it is going to be 105 to 110 outside. And this is black. Not my finest choice. But what was I saying about the pants? Let me lower this so that you can get a better view. Looks great, right? On camera, you can hardly tell that these are different materials. You can tell, but it's not super easy. From 4 feet away, in person, you'd be hard pressed to tell, especially since up top, I'll be wearing a flak vest. And on the bottoms, well, up top I'll be wearing a flak vest and armor, and on the bottoms I'll be wearing armor. But that's not the only issue. By the way, I made this belt. I'm sorry I made it off camera. As I mentioned in the helmet video, I was in a bit of a time crunch at this time. The belt does 2 things. One, it hides a button. 2, it leaves a convenient shelf for my Mando belt to write on. And if I lower just a little bit, actually, that's even better. I don't know what I was saying. The belt is a good way to hide the straps from the thigh armor, though. But that's not the problem either. The big problem, the biggest problem, is that These are dissimilar materials. If I crouch a little bit and you see my gut, you can see the colors are different. And as I wash these more, as I wash this more, you're going to see that more. If I get really close, there we go. Maybe if YouTube compression isn't terrible, you can see that the grids, because these are both ripstop fabric, the grids on the pants are about twice as big as the grids on the top. That is a detail thing. If the colors matched, I'd be less upset about that, but here we are. And like I said, as these garments get older, you're going to see that even more. The good news is I can wear these pants on a daily basis. I've got another pair of these that I'm using for different costume that I have worn out by wearing every day. So what is the big deal here? Is it the pockets? No, these pockets are fine. It's these pockets. These pockets, so far as Ed is aware, and I trust his judgment on a lot of Star Wars costuming things because he's done more research on that. I know a bit more of the lore than he does, at least a bit more of the canon lore, but he knows a bit more of the costuming. These pockets do not exist in Star Wars. These pockets do not exist in Star Wars. Now these sit on top of the pants. I can take those off. I'm not going to because I intend to wear these as a daily driver. These, I would need to sew on an apron basically to cover these up. And none of that helps the fact that the materials are mismatched. Mandalorian is supposed to have a uniform flight suit. Preferably for a universe, Mandalorian is going to have a one-piece jumpsuit. It's going to have the jumpsuit is going to have these double sleeves, but otherwise it's going to be a one-piece jumpsuit. You can tell this is not. Now for a comic convention, a general many fandom comic convention, that's fine. No one is going to bat an eye. But if I ever try to get into an MCCC group, that's not going to fly. If I ever try to go to Star Wars Celebration, not that rich. This flight suit wouldn't fly. But given the amount of effort that I put into it and the results that came out of that, I am pretty stinking happy with how it is. I will remake the flight suit in the future. Someday, a year or so from now, you'll be watching a project recap, project update sort of video, and you'll see, oh, the flight suit's very, very subtly different from the last 3 he made, last 2.5. Yeah, it is. Because I want a more permanent state for this. However, for now, for 2025, I'm happy. And if you're happy, or you think that I should whip up another flight suit in the next 2.5 days, then why don't you write that in the comments and we'll have a discussion about it. I want to try and invite discussion into my videos. I don't want it to just be me blathering at you and you sitting back and maybe liking. I want you to comment and engage. But thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting and all that crazy stuff that you do. So, for now, Good luck. Don't die. We're all counting on you.